everybody, my name is Mario and I'm the enthusiastic developer of this duo. The random fact about me is that last weekend my family and I went to an excursion to River Socha in Slovenia. If you've never been around the River Socha in Slovenia, it's really beautiful. Go down there, walk around, do some kayaking, some rafting, whatever you want to do. Throw rocks into the river, put your feet into the river. It's freaking cold. This is an advertisement for the tourist board of Slovenia, which nobody asked for and nobody paid for. But if you're close to River Socha, go to River Socha. It's really beautiful.
Hi everybody, my name is Tom. I'm the less enthusiastic designer in this duo. And a quick fun fact about me is that I haven't been down a river, not counting River Thames in London, for a couple of years now. And I think I should go more to nature. See nature, be one with be water. I should be the river
Yes.
more.
Be the.
I don't know. Mario had a be the river you want to see in the world. I don't know. Mario had a topic for today, so Mario, I'll let you dive right in.
I had a topic for today. So I want to talk to you about three things in development that you might not know about. And in return, I want you to talk to me about three things in design that I don't know about. So, first one being English language.
Am I talking about three stuff? Three stuff or
Yeah,
three
the
things?
first
What
one
do you
is
want to
English
talk about?
language, apparently. So, ladies first. Tom, teach me a thing about design or something.
Design or something. I can teach you, but I'll have to charge. No. So I wrote down a couple that are, and I'd love that developers were aware of, which I, through my career, realized they are not always. Sometimes they are. But let me start off with the first one. That one thing that developers have a kind of different view than designer is that they see design as a one-time task. Like we design the thing and then we develop it. It's like, oh, design comes before development, then we design the thing and then we develop it. But design is not a one-time task. Design is an iterative process that happens all the time. And then I came across resistance where there would be change in design and some things would change, especially our functionality change. And I've seen, and this comes back to communication as well, but where people would be like, we built this way and now it's 3 months later and we are rebuilding it again this way. Well, yes, design changed. Why did it change? Because it changed. And then we come into interactions with users, user testing, user feedback, and we learn how our users use our product, and then we have to change a certain functionality. And this is where it kind of there was a strife, and I needed to learn how to communicate that this is something that is ongoing. But the problem is when the product is being developed ongoing, and you have to go back to a certain feature. We are going forward with new features, but we need to redo old features, and this is then the thing about resources and stuff. I'm sure you're aware of that. But this is number one thing that I will start with.
So it's interesting, and I must say that I was, at least for a long while, I was the member of well, why did this now change? But we already built it like that. They told us to build it like that. We've built it like that. Why are we changing that right now? But the thing that I've learned, and this is something that we've mentioned in previous episodes, both in the episode about, I can't even remember which one, but one about the communication and the one about understanding what others do. When given a task, I need to understand why I'm given this task. So if you come to me and say, hey, here's the design, do it. And then in 2 months, hey, you know that design we did? Yes, scratch that, we're going to do it like this. Okay. And then in 2 months, yeah, you know what? The third time, I'm going to punch you in the face unless you tell me, okay, the reason why we are doing this again is because at the time I did it the first time, we didn't know this. Then we did A-B testings. A-B testings show this. Here's a graph. Look, people want to click here, so we need to move that button there. After being explained that process, I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense for the overall product. Let's go. But if it's, design change, rebuild it, why, we already built it. Yeah, now rebuild it again because the design changed. That's kind of harsh. So this is probably where you find resistance.
So I think the designers are responsible to make everybody else aware where the change comes from.
I would agree. I mean, also, again, going to the team communication in the episode we already have, like if you have a problem with something, ask why. Like, it's not a problem. Okay, I have resistance towards this change. Why did you make it? And then if somebody didn't proactively communicate to you, we made it because of this and because of users want, then when you ask a clear why, you will get an answer. Or you work in a team that really sucks in communication, which is not optimal.
Not optimal for sure. But yeah, designers or product in general should be responsible for making everybody else aware where does the change come from and why. So 100% agree.
Okay, that was fun actually. I kind of did know it, so I'll count it as it's a really cool thing that is very important. And if any designers and developers are listening to us, next time you don't know why they're asking you to do something, ask why. And next time they don't know what they need to do, tell them why before they ask. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. What's your first thing you want to mention?
The first thing, so all of my three are gonna be about how the developers think or should think or can think, because we are sort of our own, and I don't mean that we are like smart or anything. We just, developers usually have a way of thinking. But one of the cool things is that the developers, in my opinion, this is one of the ways you could do development, but in my opinion it really works, is domain-driven design, which means that you are thinking about entities and processes the way they are happening in real life. So, I don't know, let's take an example. Let's take a teller on a police station that can renew your ID, right? Back in the old days before you could do it online. So there is this teller. She's sitting behind the desk. You can bring to her ID. She needs to take your ID. She needs to look at it. She needs to, copy some data. She needs to connect to a different system to verify some data and things like that. How do you model a solution about this? You want to build a software solution. So you need an entity teller. You need an entity ID card. You need an entity person coming to get that ID card. Those are the three entities that are in there. And then all of the stuff that happens between are verbs. So like teller is waiting. Person comes to the bar. Person provides ID. Teller picks up ID. Teller looks at it, connects to the other system, verifies data. And this, when you think about it in this quote-unquote stupid / simplistic terms, then you can actually really easily model your software around it. So, if we have an entity called teller, I'm just going to model a class called teller. What state it has? It has state waiting, doing something, verifying, because this is what we defined. Okay, what does that teller do? That teller picks up a card. Okay, that's a verb that a teller does. Each verb I can turn into a method. So on my class teller, I'm going to have a method, pick up card. It's going to take an input parameter. What input parameter is going to take? It's going to take an input parameter of ID card, which is going to be another class because it's another entity. And therefore, thinking about the processes that you're actually modeling for your customers, for your clients, for your users, for your shopping carts, for your whatever, literally think about what are the nouns, what are the verbs, what are the adjectives. And usually the nouns are your classes, the verbs are your methods, and the adjectives are values of your properties. And when you start kind of thinking like that, it makes the process interesting. And a great book that I would recommend in this place is Domain Driven Design by Eric Evans. I don't think there should be a developer in this world that hasn't read this book. The book talks about approaching the whole design from a domain point of view. It touches on a few important things regarding communication, and one of those things is that we should all learn to speak a ubiquitous common language, which means that if you're a business person involved in a project, I don't know, somebody else is a designer, I'm a developer, somebody's a salesman, we cannot talk about the same thing in a different way. If something within the system is a teller, then everybody talking about it should be talking about it as a teller. There shouldn't be a situation where, oh, but we are sales, so we want to use fancy words, so we're going to use it. No, it's a teller. And whenever we're talking about the project, it has to be a teller so that everybody always understands each other. And the third thing this book does is it approaches most common development patterns that there exist and that you should be aware of and ideally know by heart, but if not knowing by heart, then at least be aware of so that when it gets to a chance that you use it in practice, that you can. So Eric Evans, Domain-Driven Design, high recommendation from me. Do you think in a similar way in design?
I think when we talk about design systems, I think it's this. I think the principles are definitely the same. Especially when you want to build a consistent experience across multiple products within the same company or whatever. This is very important. And I had an experience a few years back where I joined a company that did not have designers before me. And everything was designed by developers, so I don't have to tell you how that looked. But there were, I think, 9 internal softwares used by various branches of the business. Each of them looked and behaved completely different. Each of them, and they were supposed to be talking to each other, but nobody at any point said, hey, this is the same thing. How about we name it the same, make it look the same, and make it perform the same? And this is a multi-billion-dollar global business. It's unimaginable that even these big businesses don't know how to solve this problem. So, and the thing is, there was a lot of resistance from the leadership for hiring a designer, and I was hired by a product owner who knew that they need a designer, but the technical leadership was actually not very convinced. And then when I came in, I had a lot of work to do and spent a year working on it. Was a 3-month contract that lasted a year just to align everything on a same design system, and then make sure, okay, the new product that we're building is going to look like this, and now we have to go back and make sure that all of the others align on this one design system, so when the company moves forward. So to answer your question, yes, I agree 100%. But this is where I think one of the issues that I wanted to discuss today is that developers don't necessarily see the UI and UX inconsistencies within product, especially if there are 2 different teams. They have their own, whatever they're working on, they build it, it works, they are testing it, they are not using it, they are not users of the product they're building. So they don't see how these 2 completely different softwares that should communicate don't have the same experience. So the actual users, the employees that are using the software, are completely lost. And there was a in this specific situation, there was I said, ironically, so I said this as a joke, you either build a good product or you build a good manual to learn how to use bad products. And the response was, oh yes, we have 2 people, we are writing the manual now. And I was just like, no, that's a joke. Like, they hired a person to build a manual, and it will then later train the people to use bad software. And I was like, this is the worst possible way of going around it. But it's just, people have this big blindsided, and they don't know that the problem can be solved. And I once worked with a startup in Techstars that built like an app for designers that you can kind of have this little slider on your phone and then compare a design to what was actually built and delivered. So you can kind of have two overlays, and then you see, okay, this is what was designed, this is what was delivered. And design makes sense, but they were marketing this to developers. So it's like if developers want to build a pixel perfect design, and they couldn't get traction because who would have guessed developers don't give a shit about pixel perfect design. So we had a conversation. I was at that point a mentor for the cohort in design, and I said, okay, how about you actually market this product to a group of people that gives a shit about this, and that's not developers, that's product owners, product managers, design leaders within the organizations, and then they will make developers use it and make sure that it's consistent. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. They flipped it around, pivoted, and they got acquired like a year later by Marvel, I think. Marvel, the design company, not Marvel, the franchise movie company. But yeah, that was and not the superhero Marvel, but the superheroes of design.
But actually, I agree. So I do have a blind spot for pixel perfect design. I'm gonna make it in my first iteration. I'm gonna just make it, okay, you said we need a slider here. It's gonna be a slider. You said this color. Okay, that's easy. It should have this much padding. We'll just put some padding. I don't care, just so it's there. And it's funny because in my everyday life, I have two roles. One is I'm a CEO of a company, and another one is I'm a CTO of a company that still does some development. So when I do development, then I don't care about these things, don't notice these things, focus on functionality, get the functionality delivered, functionality works. We can do what we need to do with the system. Our clients can do what they need to do with the system. Life is good. When I'm a CEO of a company, then I'm not involved in the development every day. I just know what we agreed with the client. I know what we need to deliver. And then when they show me, okay, this is what we're going to deliver, I'm like, that window is missing a title. Yeah, but you haven't seen this amazing functionality. Yeah, but that window is missing a title. We need a title on that window. But who cares about a title? That window is missing a title. And actually, this is funny because on my first job at Lemex, I used to do software programming, and I would do a bunch of stuff and everything. And as I was still juniorish, I wanted to make sure that everything was working properly, tested all the edge cases before I called my manager to check it out. And then when I called him, he would come from another room, and literally from the room door, he would look at my screen like 5 meters away and say, "You're missing a title there. That label isn't aligned." And I'm like, but look, we have 50 windows in our software. Each of them has labels aligned. If you make one that doesn't, let's just keep it consistent. I mean, if we agree that this is how it's gonna look, then let's make all the windows look like that so people can actually use the amazing feature that you've built and that works. Congratulations, you've built it and it works.
Yeah, it's not that difficult to be consistent. I think it's more difficult to be inconsistent. It just takes a matter of perspective shift. That's it. Once you shift the perspective, you can take a piece of paper and see like, oh, does this align? Okay, it doesn't, or it does not. It's not that difficult. But if the thing is, if we're being honest, people just don't care. That's the thing. People don't give a shit. And why would they? Like you said, like you're as a developer, you're tasked to build a function that delivers X and works, right? So why would I care if it's consistent? But the thing is, if it's not consistent and you don't care, then the experience of a user will be shit, and then your user will find another product, and then you will not get a salary. So this is why you should care, because it ultimately fuels your paycheck.
But this is not something that you're explained when you're, let's say, hired as a junior developer. When you're hired as a junior developer, you get a git issue, do this. You're not explaining, hey, we have actual users that pay actual money that is fueling all our salaries. We need to make those users use the product. In order for that, it has to be easy to use. Nobody tells that a developer, at least a junior developer, unless they go on the internet and learn it from a I don't know, a podcast of two idiots who just talk to each other about random stuff. By the way, if you like a podcast of two idiots talking to each other about random stuff, please bell, subscribe, tell your mother and everything.
Do the
Yeah.
thing. But you're correct. Nobody tells junior developers this, and this is why. And I know we are now coming back to the topic from a couple episodes ago, but this is why I believe that the traditional education is lacking because important things are not being taught. And then also it's a problem of onboarding to a company and the problem of leadership and problem of internal communication. You hire a person and you assume that they already know this stuff, or or assume they're going to pick up, especially a junior designer. I think they need a lot of introduction into how the world actually works.
Or, even worse, you assume that they don't need to care about this. So
That's
I
even
don't
worse, yeah.
believe that these things are not told to junior developers because somebody assumed that it's irrelevant. I think they're not told to junior developers because somebody assumed, hey, these guys are just junior developers. We're going to give them minor tasks specified. They're going to do it. Why would we waste time explaining them what we're building, who we're building for? And I think, by the way, in the past 15 to 20 years, for as long as I've been a part of the industry, I think this has been changing a lot. And I think the companies are now more and more and more aware how important such onboarding is, how important is that everybody's on the same page, not about what they do, but the product as a whole and how what they do impacts the product as a whole.
Times are changing, you want to say.
Yes, and you are growing old, my friend.
Yes, they are. Oh, yeah, that's true. Here's another thing that I wish developers were aware a little bit more when working with designers. And then I'll let you take the mic. But one thing that I missed a lot when I started out, and I was lucky enough to have some amazing developers I work with that solve these issues for me fairly quickly, but I've seen it happen numerous times, is designers come in with these big ideas and they want to do all of this amazing stuff and it's going to be shiny and chrome and animated and whatever. And they are not explained the constraints that happen from the development side. And I think we discussed this in episode number 1 is do developers hate designers and vice versa. But I think designers are not aware of constraints that happen, and not just so we can talk about development constraints and resource constraints, but also business constraints. And I think that it would be better for everybody if everybody was aware of, as much as developers need to be aware what are the benefits of a shiny and pretty and functional and consistent design. I think in the same way, designers needs to be aware of there are constraints that exist in development, and resources are limited, and then sometimes we can waste a week on a bullshit animation, or we can waste a week on building a core functionality, and why A is more important than B, or vice versa. So
I agree. And again, this is going back to the communication because not everybody's always on the same page, you know. A designer can make something that looks beautiful, but is highly complex. Nobody's going to tell them, hey, this is too complex to build. Let's just ditch these two small details and then it's fairly straightforward. The company is going to waste 3 weeks of building it. They could have ditched the two small details that make like a 2% difference and save up 70% of the time. And if a good product owner is in place, if a good team is in place, if everybody's talking, if everybody's free to openly comment, then these things are going to swim out the surface and the team is going to make the best decision for the product. If it's not, if it's like you do this because I told you so, then you end up with teams spending 70% more time, but you have really shiny animations. Like really shiny animations. It costs like 4 times more, but like who's counting? So, yeah, I agree on that.
how do we know that what 2% we should cut off, right? Who knows, and who decides?
So, either you have a product owner that needs to make the decision, or you have a team that makes it. So if you have a team where you have a business person, a salesperson, a designer, and three developers, and then we come and say, okay, option A with these two details is going to cost 4 weeks. Option B without these two details is going to cost 4 days. This is it. You know the budget. You know the place where you want to be. Sometimes it might be valuable for those two details to cost 4 weeks. Sometimes it might not. I mean, that somebody has to be able to make the final decision. But I think that the design teams and the development teams should be in communication enough to prepare whoever it needs to be to make informed decision. And then that person's going to
Yeah.
make the wrong one anyway, so it's not a problem.
Well,
So,
better to make a wrong decision than not to make a decision
yes,
at all. So,
that's actually a topic. That actually might be a topic on its own. But for me, it's interesting. I don't know if other people do this or is it just me. But generally, when I talk, not only to designers, but when I talk to clients, I'm thinking in data structures. And I've read recently, post on LinkedIn saying, start with the database first. I don't necessarily agree. I would say start with the database when you have the spec. So if you're building a product, you need to have a spec. If somebody has a good spec, you can start from database first. And usually when I talk to my either clients or designers or whoever kind of came up with the feature that needs to be built, I'm already thinking, okay, that's going to connect to the existing data here. For this, we need to have data there. We'll get it from there. This needs a foreign key here. This needs a thing there. Okay, I can't get this data on this screen because it doesn't exist yet. I have to raise an alarm. And then I raise an alarm. And then it often, yeah, you're correct. We actually don't have the data there, but I wanted to make that box because it's pretty. But and you can do that if you have a good specification or if you're talking to somebody who's actually thought about their product, about their software, about their service, about whatever. Usually people haven't. And that's why with the people who haven't done that, I do it in my mind anyway because that's how my mind works, and I assume a lot of development minds function like that. But basically, the people who haven't analyzed their service deeply enough should not necessarily be talking to me, but should be talking to Tom first, because Tom's going to ask them who's using your system, how they're using your system, when are they using your system, what are they solving, what is,
why?
why, and a bunch of like 1,000 questions. And then Tom is going to either build a functional specification, or he's going to build user stories, or he's going to build diagrams, or he's going to build basically the concept of how the thing should work, aka a specification. And then when I talk to Tom and read his specification, then I see all the data structures just mapping out in my head and drawing lines. So when you talk to like a client and that comes and says, hey, I don't know, I need a social network for my pets where dogs can say bark and cats can say meow. How do you already see like, okay, so that means that I have a table called animals. This is where I'm going to store my animals. It's connected to a table that says posts. These are the posts. An animal is just an abstract class that's going to be then inherited by dog and cat, yada yada. Do you already see that when you're talking to them, or what do you see?
I don't see so as you were explaining the concept, first of all, I already saw like a profile screen, how the feed looks like. I see it in terms of how I would display the data, but I don't see the table because uh, I would say, okay, we need a profile for a dog, profile for a cat. It's a different type of profile. I already saw that, okay, it could be a male or female. Uh, I don't think there are they them dogs yet, but who knows? Maybe soon. And then like, how can we display the thing? How can we? But I know the idea that you came up now is just like an example of a stupid idea. But man, I think that would be a successful social network. And I'll tell you why. Because I have a profile for my dog on Instagram, and he has over 500 followers already in a couple of months. And I think 80% of followers are other dogs' profiles, and the owners have conversations with their animals like, "Oh, today I went for a walk. I had a tasty treat. Oh, first time I tried dog-friendly ice cream."
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the developer and designer having coffee. We are shutting down this podcast and are going to use this time to build a social network for dogs and cats, which can say bark and meow.
But to answer your questions, no, I don't see it like that.
Well, now you know, if you know, when you talk to me and you see my eyes kind of go drift up in the upper right corner, that's because some tables don't fit in and they should. So my mind is sort of breaking in the background, just so you know. And the,
Okay.
and the last thing I want to teach you.
You mentioned
Sorry, go ahead.
that was the thing. No. That's what I said. I said I know you have one more thing before we wrap up.
We
That's what I
said
wanted
three,
to say.
three. You did three, I did two. So the third thing is developers need to be able to be stupid. And I know you've probably worked with developers and you thought, oh my God, this guy's so stupid, but not that kind of stupid. So stupid in a way that computers are stupid, and therefore, in order for us to wield them, we need to be able to understand how stupid they are and be as stupid as them. Now, what do I mean by stupid? So, stupid means that the machine will do exactly what you tell it to do. Let me repeat that. It will do exactly what you tell it to do. So, for example, you're typing something, you forgot semicolon. It'll tell you you're missing a semicolon here. Then you're going to tell it, oh, go suck on a lemon. Then it's going to say compile error, lemon undefined, and so on. So it doesn't get humor. It doesn't understand what you meant. It doesn't understand what you wanted to do. It doesn't understand what you had an idea to do. It understands only and explicitly, brutally explicit commands that you gave it to. And those commands are, I don't know, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she understands more complex commands than a computer. So in order to wield a computer, you have to be stupid. Let me give you an example. If you want to make a cup of tea, how would you make a cup of tea, Tom? Describe your steps.
Put the kettle on.
Syntax
Take
error,
mug
kettle
out,
not found.
the-
You have to get up.
Buy a kettle.
You have to walk to the kitchen. You have to stand in front of a
Oh,
cupboard.
okay.
You have to open a cupboard. If no cupboard, return error. When you open a cupboard, you have to find a kettle. If no kettle, return argument not found, kettle missing. And so on and so on and so on. So while normal humans think, in a way, put the kettle on, developers need to be really stupid and, break it down to Forrest Gump like instructions so that the machine can actually understand you. And once you can do that, then the machine is extremely powerful because using those basic commands, it can do so much computation in so little time that it's amazing. And that actually leads me to my bad joke of the day, which kind of ties in with this last topic and how the developers think about. And that's in a married couple, the husband is a developer, and the wife tells him, hey, could you pop by the store and get us a stick of butter? And if there are any eggs, please get 10. And the guy comes back with 10 sticks of butter and says, yeah, there were eggs in the shop. So machines are stupid and they will do literally what you tell them to do. Hence, us, the developers, need to be stupid as well. And therefore, I'm ending with a stupid joke.
Okay, now I feel bad following that joke with my stupid joke, but because my joke is really stupid. It's two guys walked into a bar, the third one ducked. That was pretty stupid.
That was pretty stupid.
That was pretty stupid. For the first two guys.
Please,
least.
award our stupidness with a like, with a subscribe, with a whatever. And I hope you enjoyed this one.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for talking to your mom about our podcast. And we'll see you in the next one.
Enjoy. Bye.
Bye.